Are live. Good evening, everybody. It is Friday Eve, August. Wow. We're already off to a roaring start. It is September 4th, 2025. That just goes to show how fast time has just been rocking by us. And I can't believe we are now only about 6 days away from the official calendar peak of the hurricane season. So thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. I will openly say we have a lot to talk about, but at the same time, with what's happened in the last 6 or so hours, we don't have as much to talk about now. All of a sudden, models, once again, I think it's the Nazario effect, but models have all of a sudden yanked the rug out from underneath us. And also, again, I apologize in advance, just as I did in yesterday's video. I am not at 100% yet, so if you hear me clear my throat or you hear some nasty stuff behind the scenes here, I promise I'm not doing anything funky. I'm just trying to make sure that my lungs and my throat are up to par. Even got my little orange juice on deck. You can tell we're almost at that time of the year, though. Almost spooky season. We're almost there. So, for every live discussion, we've had a lot of new subs pop in. If you're joining us this evening, I sincerely appreciate you. The rest of the Weather Center community really sincerely appreciates your genuine support, as well as we thank you for entrusting me with your tropical weather information. And then since this is a year-round channel, thank you for trusting me for all things weather-related. And we'll go ahead and do some saying hello. We'll say hello for a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So be patient if you are brand new to this is your first live stream with us. Just going to spend some time saying hello in the chat. I see Ethan's Life. Mr. Man JJ, I'm glad you're with us this evening from down there in the Windward Islands, watching this invest area very closely. Joseph, Kevin Rivera from Puerto Rico, Scrooge McDuck, Kiara, thanks so much for tuning in tonight. Zachary Berger, Shannon, Justin Short, hello neighbor, it's great to see you, and I do apologize I haven't gotten back to you about the portable ACs. I've been rocked and bedridden Monday night, Tuesday, Wednesday, into this morning, but then I had drill earlier. So, yeah, see, 1 second. Jeez, wow, all right. And then, yes, Mike from New Orleans, he sent me something earlier that was just extreme clickbait. Extreme clickbait. Somebody actually put a thumbnail out there that says, disaster, with a weird-looking hurricane thingamajiggy in there. I think that is ridiculous. That is ridiculous, and I'm only going to have it up there for a second just for the sake of not flaming anybody. But what disaster are we talking about? Nothing has happened, and while we do have some concerning trends that we want to discuss tonight, it's not like we're actually seeing anything horrendously, catastrophic happening, if anything. So, with that being said, here is National Hurricane Center's homepage. Let me get Epic Pen up for you. There it is. Wow, that actually came up very quickly. Let's see if that's a sign that it's not going to lag tonight. So, as I'm sure all of you are aware, we have now newly designated Invest 91L. 90L, for a quick refresher, because I saw a couple folks on social media, even actual meteorologists, mentioning 90L. Let me just go ahead and get it straight. I know it's just a little typo. 90L is what went on to become Fernan. 99L was the dud that kind of tried to show itself a little something west of the Cabo Verde Islands and then dissipated once it got just beyond about, I think, 45 to 50 west. It kind of just petered out. We lost a lot of convection. It got stretched out from an upper low to its north, and then as soon as it went through the Lesser Antilles, it was washed out. Never to be seen or heard of again. This is now 91L. Brand spanking new area of interest. If I can find my mouse, there you are. Broad area of low pressure associated with a tropical wave is producing a concentrated but still disorganized area of showers and thunderstorms over the eastern tropical Atlantic. In layman's terms, it's a sloppy mess right now. To tell you the honest truth, it's not something that I anticipate is going to blow up and flourish into a major hurricane. There have been some prior ensemble and computer model runs. I'm looking at you, Euro. It's not the GFS this time. The European model, especially early yesterday morning and then Tuesday evening, we saw 06 and 18Z, the intermediate model runs, actually showing a major hurricane solution before the islands. I never really anticipated that that was never going to be the case. It is very interesting, though, that the model has kind of backpedaled almost altogether and now kind of shows this feature also washing out as it moves east, or I should say west of the Lesser Antilles, as maybe a low to mid-grade tropical storm. So definitely an interesting setup. We've seen a lot more volatility since this thing became an invest, though, I will openly admit. We've seen some very dramatic adjustments to the left, especially in the likes of the Icon and the GFS model. The GFS almost full-heartedly caved to the European model's runs that we've been seeing consistently for the last couple of days now. That's why I was a little flabbergasted when I went to pull up all the information for the stream, get set up. All of a sudden, 12Z petered off. 18Z came in even weaker. Do I think this is the start of a trend? It could be, but at the same time, now the European model is by itself. All of our other computer models still say all systems go, and despite being a little bit of a sheared mess, the hurricane models also do show the gradual development into a tropical storm as it progresses through the Lesser Antilles. So to get that right away out into open air, I'm not anticipating some sort of disastrous event. This is not going to be a barrel. This is definitely not going to be a barrel, so we have to go ahead and squash the noise as much as we can. Okay, if this were to survive, making its way into the Caribbean and then north of the Greater Antilles, that's when things could get a little interesting. And that's my biggest concern. I personally don't see any issue with development. It might be slow and steady, kind of like the tortoise versus the hare, but I don't see any problem with anything getting its act together, at least where we stand right now. We're going to continue to move generally westward into more favorable conditions. The only other small nuance is a tiny little vort couplet that has decided to show itself embedded within the same convergence area, the ITCZ. For those of you unfamiliar, that's our intertropical convergence zone. To break that down for any of my new viewers out there, inter means it's in the midst of the tropics. Intertropical, it's within the tropical regions of the Atlantic Ocean and other portions of the world. Convergence means you have your northern hemisphere winds coming in out of the northeast, and then you have your southern hemisphere winds coming in out of the southwest. So they meet like so. That's where that convergence zone comes from. And with that being said, we already know the formation chances here. You can see 48 hours, we're up to a 60% shot. 7 days, we are nearly maxed out, 90%, which is another reason why I think that the Euro might be just kind of struggling a little bit. Just a little bit. When I take you out there across the basin right now, it is definitely a kerfluffled mess. We're definitely looking kind of rough around the seams here just a little bit. We'll go ahead and start left to right, and we'll break down the pattern together. That's why I love these live conversations, because I can actively kind of just dissect everything, and we can talk about it collectively as a group, and I love that. So again, if you're brand new to this live discussion, please just give us a little patience. Let's walk it all through together. Starting out over the United States, we still have this crank and trough that's dug in over the deep south and the southeast U.S., helping to bump up our rain chances for the bottom half of the Florida Peninsula, getting a little bit of what looks to be an embedded shortwave, a little piece of energy that's managed to work its way through on the north side of where our jet stream is running. You can kind of see that up there along the Tennessee-North Carolina border, some of that moisture getting into portions of... Let me go ahead and do that. There we go. Get my face out of the way. So you can see a little bit of embedded energy moving through Tennessee, lower Kentucky, kind of scraping the upper periphery of Georgia and South Carolina, and a little disturbed weather in there. That would be what's called an embedded shortwave, just a tinier pulse within the overall jet stream digging south across the southern United States. Then we also have one large cutoff low moving through areas of Hispaniola, kind of positioned a little more over Haiti at this point. Jamaica being inundated by thunderstorms and heavy rainfall coming in right out of the north and northeast, kind of in a perfect fire hose position for this thing to just dump you with moisture. Same thing with Cuba, the Turks and Caicos maybe getting in a little of the action, and then the Bahamas most definitely are seeing those popcorn thunderstorms firing up near to the islands, especially the further east and north. Actually, again, I'm messing up my compass rose. I think the congestion in the little head cold that I've got going on is boggling up my inner compass the further west and north you go. Then we have another upper level low. This one, as well as its counterpart to the east, is what we were initially, I should say the models were anticipating were going to disrupt what is now 91L. It is way off to the south, a very tiny system, very tiny. So honestly, those upper lows to its north are definitely not doing very much in the nudge department. They're not trying to yank it to the north. It is now this feature, this one right there that I'm circling over and over and over again, that our hurricane models especially are thinking could do a miniature Fujiwara with 91Ls. It tries to further organize and peel away from that convergence zone, the ITCZ, right in through here. As it moves towards the west, these two could potentially try to undergo a little bit of a merging Fujiwara dance where they kind of overlap and pinwheel around one another like so. And then that could very well disrupt the low-level and mid-level circulation coupling together. And I'll go ahead and pull myself back up and kind of break that down for you all. So when you hear things like low-level, mid-level, you have different layers to your tropical features. The mid-level circulation is usually what gets going first because as you get thunderstorms to fire over a tropical wave or a disturbance, you usually see a clearing out of your atmosphere. You see that lowering pressure in the mid-levels because that's where a lot of your lift has started to take shape. So as you get that mid-level circulation to undergo a little bit of further organization and tightening up, as that starts to spin a little faster, what that does is it creates a vacuum underneath it. And that's when your low-level spin finally begins to establish itself. And typically, they'll wobble around one another. They won't quite be in sync because you have a lot of that thunderstorm action near the center, kind of causing a lot of ruckus. It's shaking it, shimmying it, and throwing it all out of whack. Once those two finally become aligned, that's when we're typically off to the races and we'll start to see strengthening, if not rapid intensification. I think I saw a question in the chat that I want to immediately get out of the way. I think there's been other folks asking if this could get into the Gulf. I definitely do not see that happening, and I can very comfortably say that. If I end up eating my words, then we would have something significantly change in our steering pattern, but this will most definitely either be something that scrapes through the Caribbean islands and then ejects up towards Bermuda, or perhaps becomes a bit more of a detriment to us in the eastern United States. But I do not see this being a Gulf type of scenario. Definitely don't see it being a Gulf. We just don't have the pattern for it. We don't have the pattern for it. The only way that would happen is if the cutoff low that we've been watching over the last few consecutive model runs were to pull way back over Texas, headed towards the desert southwest, to then tug what could be 91L, what's more of it, what's left of it, further west from there. But at this point, no, I do not see this being a Gulf type of event. Now, here's a closer look, and I'm going to I don't like how Tropical Tidbits is doing that random spastic flash there. I don't like when the website does that sometimes. So we'll hang out here for just a little while. One thing I'm also noticing, too, is it seems as if where that mid-level circulation has consolidated just to the south of 15 north latitude, we're starting to see that low-level spin. It looked like the low-level spin started here, and that kind of got tugged towards the north ever so slightly, which could also pay dividends on what the models will initialize, what the initial conditions will show over the next few days. Then you can see off towards the left-hand side of the screen here, let me get myself out of the way once again and take you full screen. This is that other little vortmax that you can see very well evident when you look at an analysis, an analysis of our current mid-level spin out there across the Atlantic. And then you can kind of see this is where your convergence zone usually lies. This looks to be an extension of our monsoon trough down here. You can see those southerly winds really ripping, creating a nice little line signature in the cloud cover, but then our ITCZ has kinked back up towards the north with this wave trying to break away from it. So once it does finally uncouple from that convergence zone, these trades coming in out of the north and east are going to take it generally westward. Kind of the same thing that we saw with Erin when it was first undergoing development. We started to see it get wrapped up in our easterly and northeasterly flow, and that's what helped to bump it back towards the south. So all the western shifts and all the major shifts and all that everyone was talking about on social media, that's what encouraged it. You had that big dome of high pressure. And remember, we're still not even into the favorable phase of the Madden-Julian oscillation to help kind of give things a better background puzzle or better background state of the atmosphere to get these things to develop a little bit quicker. We're still fighting against that. So to tell you the truth, given the fact that this thing doesn't look too bad right now, I mean, granted, it has started to show a little bit of anemia taking place. We've started to see some of that earlier convection really start to fall apart. Let me see if I can get Tropical Tidbits to cooperate with me without lagging the stream. There you go. So I'll pause it at the end of the loop there, and if you notice, it looks like we're trying to get maybe some very small popcorn-like thunderstorms to fire on the west and southwest corner of it, but your low-level spin is somewhere in through there. Somewhere right there between 12 and 14 degrees latitude. We can go ahead and just kind of summarize it at about 13 degrees latitude, and you can see this is not looking too good, but remember, before we go discrediting it, which is why I'm like this right now, we're only talking trends and more or less spitballing with each other tonight because of how much we've been uprooted in terms of our continuity since you saw my video yesterday and even days prior to that. Erin looked worse than this before it rapidly intensified into our Category 5 hurricane for the season. So we can't go ahead and start discounting it right away, and perhaps this is also why models are, especially the European model, are falling out of love with it, is the fact that we've lost a lot of our luster with this. Typically, models would be a little more jazzed if we had more consolidated convection near that low spin. And the fact that we've kind of dissipated that and some of that dry air has definitely worked in on the west side of it, I think that's also why the Euro has kind of been trending a little bit weaker with this, so we'll have to see. Just a friendly reminder, two things, some housekeeping, just kind of like as a little brief intermission since we hit 15 minutes into the stream. Two things. Number one, if you all could kindly give that like button a little nudge. For those of you who've seen the Santa Claus 2, that's precisely where I got that little ism, Nazario-ism from. I need a little help. I need a little muscle. I need a little nudge, and that's exactly where you all come in. Let's call yourselves the little nudge. You all are what's creating and what's building this community. Without you all, there would be no weather-centric community, and I attribute all the humble, I will say, success of this channel to all of you out there, and I'm looking right into the camera saying that because it's not me. I provide the knowledge, but if I have nobody to talk to, then at the end of the day, we ain't doing nothing besides spinning our wheels at the starting line. So it's all you out there and your wonderful and generous support. I see some of the donations popping up in the chat as well. And again, it's just sincerely grateful. It's inspiring. It keeps me grinding and working hard to the point where I get myself sick because I'm just not resting enough. And I know that's a stern reminder that I'm a human being too. I'm not a Terminator or anything like that, as much as I wish I was. And so every now and again, I got to pump the brakes a little bit. So thank you all very much. A sincere thank you to all my OGs from 2023 who have held steady, kept the seatbelt on, holding on to your butts since Adalia back in 2023. And a huge thanks to everybody who has just jumped aboard the community and helped to grow this channel that much more. It's awesome. It's great. And like I said, it's inspiring. It's inspiring. Number two, every update here on in, I'm not sure if it'll show on this live discussion once we conclude, but apparently there's a hype button. And I'm not saying that because I know a lot of people love to say hype in the weather community, but supposedly there's a hype button that you all can also give a little nudge. So I'm going to say hit the hype button, nudge the like button. Both of you all, if you could please do that, or everybody, if you can do both of those, I would definitely love if you could. So now, let's continue on. This is a look at your vorticity, and this would be the signature for 91L right there. So notice the vorticity signature is stuck over 10 degrees north latitude. It's a little further south than some of the cloud features that we're seeing on the True Color Visible satellite. So I find that also interesting. Makes you wonder if we're seeing a little bit of influence from the upper low to the north, like an extension of that energy, kind of trying to pull up the intertropical convergence zone, or if perhaps that low-level vort signature there, that little cluster of red and orange colors, is also going to get tugged towards towards the north. Because the only other signature I see to support the clouds that far to the north is when you switch to your 500 millibar chart here, and you can see that coloring lifts more to about 14, 15 degrees latitude, which is very interesting. I wonder if that's just some kind of shared energy that we're seeing between the two features, because even at 700 millibars, when you get to about 8,000 to maybe 10,000 feet, the signature for what is 91L is still way down to the south in comparison. So, I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll definitely have to see. I think I saw another question in the chat about yeah, there it is. Dane Clement asks, I have a question. Why no Gulf storms this year? Last year has been so quiet in the Gulf. So, Dane, it's coming. I hate to say it, but the famous catchphrase last year was hyperactive. Everybody was overusing the term hyperactive. 2023 was I diddly doodah, and that was it. 2025, the catchphrase is give it a little more time. As we continue to retrograde towards a La Nina and our thermodynamics, the temperatures that we're seeing both in the atmosphere and especially at the sea surface and below the ocean surface, as they become even more favorable, I do think that it's only a matter of time before the Caribbean starts to produce and then the Gulf begins to produce. And we'll go ahead and talk on that. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and start moving along a little faster. These are your super ensembles. And when I say super ensembles, I love this plot created by the Mr. Tomer Berg. I forget where he works out of, but this is his website. This is a look at your entire ensemble suite. There goes my Epic Pen being silly again. But these are all of your consolidated ensembles from the Euro, the GFS, and the Canadian. I know sometimes they usually have the UK model on here, but it doesn't look like we have those plotted right now. And you can see, regardless of what this system does, for the next 5 or so days, we are generally tracking west, if not off towards the west, northwest, towards the Leeward Islands, still favoring more of the Leeward Islands, but it would make me feel a lot more comfortable if everybody from the upper periphery of the Lesser Antilles chain all the way down to the ABC Islands just off the coast of South America, we're at least looking at starting some early preparations, just to be on the safe side. Even if this is a tropical storm, it's still a bad day in anyone's neighborhood when you're on an island. And I know we're not unfamiliar with these types of systems, and again, this is no barrel, but at the same time, we got to respect the situation and understand what's coming towards us, and any tropical cyclone is never a good time. This is also one thing I really love, too. This is a look at your ensemble trends when you consolidate all the individual members of each computer model, the Euro, the GFS, and the Canadian model, and you lump them all into one line. We've been steadily ticking towards the west and southwest. The black line is where we stand now. The purple line was approximately 12 hours ago. The yellow line was 24 hours ago. And we're starting to see that, quote, fish storm solution kind of going away a little bit. So we're going to have to continue to watch that. And then here is your latest ship's guidance. This is another computer model that kind of interpolates data from different pieces of the puzzle, particularly based off of a lot of the GFS data. And you can see here, this model actually cranks this puppy up to a Category 2 before approaching the Lesser Antilles. Is this still a doable solution? Yes, but like I love to emphasize, is this the most likely outcome? I don't think so. I would wager more along the lines of, as a ceiling right now, before any impacts are felt in the Lesser Antilles, I would wager we see a mid to high-end tropical storm or a strengthening Category 1 hurricane. That's as far as I would go, and that's, again, my ceiling. The uppermost maximum I could see this thing doing as it moves into the eastern periphery of the Caribbean Sea. Now, one thing that has been adjusting are our computer models, the ensembles especially. So one thing I want to show you first and foremost, we're going to go back to the GFS, because the GFS has definitely caved substantially to the European model. Big time. The GFS is our American model. Let's go back to 0Z last night. So 0Z last night, this came in at approximately 11:30 p.m. local time here in Central Florida. And if you look at where the system is initializing and beginning to develop, it starts to undergo development just to the immediate east of 40 west longitude, right about 12 degrees north latitude. But then it quickly gains latitude and strengthens quickly and pulls north of the Lesser Antilles, kind of leaving everybody on the weak side of it. This would have been the best case scenario for everybody down there. You fast forward to 6Z. Same thing, albeit just a little bit on the weaker side. Still very quickly begins to gain latitude, pulling away from the intertropical convergence zone, and then starts to dip back down towards the south, and I'll show you why that is in a moment, and it is a very viable possibility, I'll say. A very viable and doable solution, but dang, I'm not even going to try to forecast an upper level low, a cutoff low from a trough extending over the eastern United States 10 plus days from now. Models are trash, and I will say that bluntly. Models are absolutely terrible with cutoff low features that are already there on the map, let alone trying to forecast one from this far away. So is it a doable solution? Yeah, and if that does set up, we might have some problems. But as of right now, we're so far out that I want to focus on the islands first because this is more of your short-term nowcast criteria. Then if you rewind it back to the very beginning of the run, you go to 12Z earlier today, this is when things started to get a little more interesting. Model initialized way to the south and then worked its way pretty much right through the heart of the Lesser Antilles as a strengthening hurricane. And like I said, if this were to pan out, if we were to see this type of solution verify, I would say anybody down there, once we do get a depression and eventually a named storm, I would prepare for anywhere in the realm of a tropical storm to a Category 2. Now remember, I know I just said ceiling of Category 1. Why are you saying 2? You always want to prepare for the next level up. That's something they always taught us in the Air Force. If you're training to become an NCO, you should be practicing like you already are an NCO and getting ready for the level above that, the rank above it. So if you were a senior airman getting ready to put on staff sergeant, you want to be acting like a tech sergeant. I hope that makes sense. Same rules apply when it comes to preparedness for a significant event. Not just weather, but anything in life. You always want to prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. So in this case, I would say you definitely want to have preparations in play for what could be a Category 2 level event, just to be safe than sorry. If nothing happens, hooray, you were ready for it and nothing happened, false alarm. If something does happen, regardless, you're rocking out because you're ready. So that's the big picture, that's the key takeaway. One interesting piece of the puzzle are the changes that we've seen in our ensemble output. So let me show you the latest GFS ensembles. And if you notice, there's a couple different interesting things here. Number one, we're seeing even more of some sort of Caribbean signature pulling up due north into the Eastern Gulf. No other model is showing that. Excuse me. No other model is really showing that. However, the Euro still continues to show a little something trying to develop in the Bay of Campeche or the immediate eastern shores of Belize and the Yucatan Peninsula as we get beyond September 15th to about September 20th. That would be my date and time, Dane Clement, if you're still in the chat. And for those of you else who are curious about the Gulf Coast, that would be when I think we need to shift gears. And that's kind of what I've been emphasizing to friends and other relatives of mine behind the scenes is like, yeah, we got something to track out there, but this is kind of like the appetizer. Because if I show you the latest velocity anomalies and the trends we've been seeing with our MJO, this is round one. We've kind of stepped into the ring with a prime Mike Tyson. We barely survived. Well, actually, I should say the bell just rang for round one, and we got to make sure our head movement and our bobbing and weaving and our combos are on point because we haven't even gotten to the heart of the heavyweight championship bout just yet. And I'll save that for the backside of the live stream. But another thing I want you to notice here is our ensembles have definitely nudged westward as well. Take a look at that. Look at how much closer our ensembles are to the southeast coast of the United States. Even if I were to stop the clock right here looking at our long-range ensembles, I feel more comfortable looking at the ensembles. This tells me we can't let off the throttle just yet. We definitely don't want to let off the throttle just to be on the safe side because this definitely shows a lot more of a setup that could get very close to a lot of people. It's not only about the United States on this channel. We have a lot of folks between the 91L Invest and us here in the United States. There's thousands upon thousands of people, and you all count too. You all definitely count, and so we're looking at everybody. So if you're wondering about your area, just bear with me. Let's take some time and let's dissect all the information, and we'll go step by step. We're going to be spending a lot of time with this system, just like we did with Hurricane Erin, so there's plenty of time to really boil down what it is that we could see, if anything, in terms of United States impacts. One thing I haven't taken a look at are our ensembles for the 18Z Euro. I want to see if we've ticked down at all in our ensembles. So we have. It does look like we have knocked down the ensemble count quite a bit, actually. Quite a bit. That is actually a pretty decent tick in the downward direction. Let me zoom us down in on there. We have a handful of members out there. Some still crank this puppy up to a major hurricane as we approach next Wednesday. So see, that puts it into perspective. Today's Friday Eve. It's Thursday. And this still hasn't even made it to the Lesser Antilles by Wednesday of next week. We've got a lot of time to spend with this system. That's why I almost postponed this live discussion tonight, because models were trending, and then they pulled the rug out from under us, threw the wool back over our eyes. We have another big, huge chunk of continuity that was just ripped apart. And so now we'll have to see if we level back off, because the AI model has never been in love with this thing. The Euro has been very much so going up and down, oscillating with it. That is for certain. And now we're starting to see it going back in the downward direction again. Am I still confident that we're going to get development out of this? Yes. Does it survive? That is still the question. That's always been my biggest question. All the conversations I've had behind the scenes, my biggest gripe is what happens near the Lesser Antilles and beyond that. In the actual main development region of the tropics, the region between the Lesser Antilles and the west coast of Africa, I have no doubts about that. I do think we see a gradual rotation. We get a nice little spin up, tropical depression over the next 2 or 3 days, no harm nor foul. Where I am still up in the air very much so is, does it actually make it to Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and north or west of there? That's where my biggest, my hang-up is right now. One other thing I want to show you before we start to switch gears and kind of get ready to close out, because I don't want to take up too much of your time tonight. Like I said, I just pointed out, we still have 5, if not 7 days before this thing is even at the Lesser Antilles, let alone the United States. So I'm not going to go ahead and beat a dead horse and take up all of your evening. I just want to show you the long-range Euro in terms of closer to home. So check that out. If you look right about the 16th to the 17th of September, still seeing a pretty decent signal out there in the Bay of Campeche. But remember what I've been saying. If you all have been tuning in religiously to all my previous tropical updates, I'd mentioned anytime we start to see a bit of a whisper or a hint of something closer down there that could be gyre related, or perhaps a weak tropical wave getting stuck inside the gyre and then spat out as something trying to develop, you always delay it. They always seem to get a little excited and they push it back. So now if you notice, all of our ensemble members showing development down there are now later into the 17th out to about the 19th. So we're getting closer. I think within this date and time frame, we're probably going to start to see it holding steady. Between the 17th and about the 22nd is when I think we'll probably start to shift gears and look a little closer to home outside of all this other ruckus that's going on across the Atlantic. Because if you look, that's a fairly noisy but active signature. One thing I do want to show you before we go to the velocity anomalies is the 18Z AI ensembles, because the AI model has definitely fallen in all sorts of love. Yeah, look at that with our upstream features. Oh, and look at that, actually. It shows something in the Gulf, too. Right around that same date and time, right around the 18th to the 19th of September. So definitely something worth paying attention to. But again, for all of my new viewers, and I've been told behind the scenes by team members, family, and close friends of mine, that's the only reason I bring this up. I promise you the only reason, but just hear me out. If you are brand new to the channel and you want to know what type of track record we have, why you should trust me, at least give me a little nudge in terms of trusting me with your weather content, let alone your tropical content, is we've seen this happening. We've seen this signature in our ensembles. We've seen generally all of our ensembles showing this type of a solution with previous invest areas, pre-Fernan, who else was it? 94L, 95L, so on and so forth. We saw this pre-Aaron. We've seen this with a couple of other tropical waves that never quite got going. And for those of you who have been with this channel since the very beginning of the calendar year, this is exactly what we predicted. And you can go check that out. I have live discussions about the tropics dating back to January, February, and March of this calendar year. And you can go back in there and check, and my OGs in the chat right now will back me up on this. I had exactly the exact same little kind of fake pseudo forecast cone right there. Even made a video at my work, my studio here in Central Florida, News 6, saying, this is where I think our landfall hotspots are going to be. Greater Antilles, Southeast United States, and up the East Coast to Atlantic Canada. And we're now into September 4th. We're now past the halfway mark. We're past halftime into this hurricane season. And the long-range seasonal forecast that we created together on the channel is still verifying. All right, if I can get my cursor to cooperate. I don't know why there's always that little lag in the cursor whenever I'm live streaming. It's very bizarre. But anyways, let's go ahead and get ready to close out the stream to show you what's ahead. Because you know I love to look long range. Just like we were just talking about, we always have to look long range. We just got a new update in our velocities for the next 45, 46 days, and that's healthy. That's healthy. So again, if we don't really get too much from 91L, just stand by. Stand by for sure, because this is an even heartier signal than what we've seen the last couple of updates from the Euro ensembles. And this is your ensemble mean. This is your conglomerate of what your most likely outcome could look like in terms of the progression of our rising motions versus our sinking motions. So right now, with 91L still trying its best, we're in the sinking phase. If you look at those orange and red shades up there between the 6th of September and the September 11th, there's that date again. We're still kind of in a mishmash. We're still back and forth. We got a weak Kelvin wave, which is just a small pulse similar to that of the MJO. It's not the real MJO. The MJO is much larger and a lot more volatile. It packs a little bit more of a punch. Think of a Kelvin wave like a jab if you're in the boxing ring. Then you have the MJO that comes in like a right uppercut. The jab is just kind of pepper your opponent a little bit, make things a little interesting, and then the uppercut is supposed to send him to the canvas. And what you're seeing here is the difference between the two. We have that weak little couplet right there, that leftover shade of green and teal up there in the top right corner of the chart. Then you can see we go back into a suppressed phase, as it's called, and then it's all hands on deck. The MJO is coming in, and it looks to stick with us until this time in October. It's another preseason prediction that I made back in like February or March, that I think we're going to have a big October system that we're tracking. And this is already from 46 days out. I'm not trying to rush us any more than we already have, but this is kind of showing that, hey, that preseason prediction with a storm being in there for the second half of October just might be a thing. And then on top of that, if you notice here, look at this very, very strong kind of standing. Oh my goodness, the pen is the bane of my existence. But if you notice these huge pulses in your rising motions over the maritime continents, that's that La Nina trying to kick in. What that's going to do is instigate more of that divergence high up in the atmosphere, and then down in the low levels, you got to fill in all that low pressure that's forming down at the surface, so you're going to get those cranking easterly winds right over our El Nino regions out there in the tropical Pacific. So this also shows we're probably still going to see our ENSO regions dipping down a little bit more in terms of the cooler anomalies, and that's all just setting us up for a busy second half of the hurricane season, very similar to what we saw last year. It's just a matter of how impactful will it be? Are we going to be just getting more close shaves? Is there going to be stuff percolating in the Gulf and in the Caribbean especially? I do think that's a potential. We just have to give it a little more time. It is only September 4th, and we already have so much on our plate. I'm still rooting for September 11th. Once we all wake up on the morning of September 11th, give the folks who need to be remembered their moment of silence, and then I pop open the computer models. I'm very curious to see what they show. Very curious to see what they show. And that's that. I'll go ahead and wrap up. I'm about 8 minutes over. I wanted to wrap this up at 8:30, but I wanted to kind of make sure I aired out everything. So while we're still a little unfavorable in the Atlantic, it does seem like development of 91L is doable. My biggest question is going to be the fork in the road in terms of, does it make it into the Caribbean and then get up out of there? Does it check in and then also check out, or does it stay and fizzle? We'll have to wait and see. And it has. April, I fully agree with you. Milagros, good to see you as well. GBF as well. Good to see you with my friend 8-Bit Bro. Supernova 22. Mick and Marley, good to see you. Yadira, blessings from West PR, good to see you. Christina Estrada, last season, a lot of people kept saying the season was going to be a bust. And yeah, Christine makes a very valid point. The reason I bring up my whole October spiel is I have my little, for my OG Twister fans out there, I have my little Bill Paxton isms, where I have like the instinct, the gut feeling about things. Last hurricane season in January, February, March of 2024, I had said, my gut says Florida's going to get hit by a hurricane in August. Bam, Debbie, right on the money. This beginning of the hurricane season, January, February, March, I said my gut's feeling was we're going to have slop in June and July. And then October, a spooky season storm. That's when one of the big ones are going to come toward us. So we'll see. We will see. We will see. Brenda Lee, blessings from Puerto Rico. Good to see you. Mr. Man JJ, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see if it'll dip that far to the south. I don't think it stays that far south, to tell you the truth. I don't think so. I think if anything, we're going to split the difference between the Windward and Leeward Islands. I can definitely see a central Lesser Antilles impact. That's why I would feel a lot more comfortable if everybody definitely was prepared, at least paying close attention to this. Even National Hurricane Center mentions in their latest narrative that interest in the Lesser Antilles should be monitoring the progression of this system. Cherie, it's great to have you with us, that's for sure. Richard Lee Green, it's difficult to say if Jamaica is going to get a major hurricane, but the machinations are there for a hurricane to wander through your area. Developing La Nina, we've got our most favorable water temperatures from the Gulf through the Caribbean into the deep tropics of the Atlantic. We've cooled off the subtropics. We have an expansive high pressure over the central Atlantic. So, I mean, it's doable. It's definitely doable. I would say you definitely want to keep watching. Keep watching all the way through to November, because if last year taught us anything, we had a major hurricane at the very beginning of November. So it ain't over till it's over. April Claremont, I really do sincerely appreciate the $50 donation. Look at that. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you. Thank you big time. She says, thank you for all the time you spend researching behind the scenes away from your family to bring us such a great channel. And she's not wrong. She is not wrong. I even have, I don't know if anybody's in the chat right now from my tropical chat, but I have friends of mine that I'm always talking with and always collaborating with while I'm doing my own notes here. I have 4 notebooks right here beside me with just tropical notes. And they even told me earlier today, you need to go to the gym and blow off some steam because you're stressing yourself out really looking at these models and ensembles as heavy as you are. I just pump the brakes a little bit because I do. It's like a healthy obsession. I always want to learn and learn and learn. Just like an ogre, I want to peel back the layers of the onion. And that is true. Christine also mentions about Halloween. I always love to do a little spooky on this channel. It's always all in good fun. But all right, we'll go ahead and rock off the live stream. Thank you all so much for being such a spectacular audience. A sincere thanks to the donations. Ethan's Life with a $2 donation. I know I've seen a few others in the chat. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. All the donations, all the likes, all the little nudges, all the hype buttons, everything, and all the new subscribers, all you're doing is inspiring me to go that much more above the bar that I already set for myself. I know we have fun. I know I joke around. I know that I get goofy sometimes, especially in these live discussions, but at the end of the day, what this channel means most to me is all of you, and I'm never going to come on here with a facade or with a two-faced ulterior motive. It's never, and I can humbly, God is my witness, not to get, religious on you all. I am faithful, but not to bring that into the equation, but I'll never get on here and give you a falsetto. If I'm wrong about something, I will take it on the chin and I'll learn from it. If I make a mistake, I will learn from it. Some of my greatest followers, Mike, I'm looking at you in New Orleans, some of my most faithful subscribers and now friends are folks who gave me that whooping that I needed. Don't do that. This makes you look silly. This is not right. And what did I do? Feedback. So I appreciate every single one of you. Have a beautiful rest of your Thursday night. Thanks for, again, another lively discussion. It's always fantastic getting to talk with everybody, and we'll see what happens. It's kind of still a toss-up with 91L, but right away, right out of the gate, Lesser Antilles. Folks, even in the U.S., British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, just keep an eye on this. We have a lot of time ahead of us. It may not even be at your doorstep this time next week with how slow of a progression that we're expecting out of this. So we'll see what happens. Alex Baller 45, you are an OG viewer. I remember talking with you during our old Tropics talk way back in the day. In 2023, I need to go back and create some playlists to consolidate all our old videos. Every now and again, I'll take a trip down memory lane and look back on where we started and, the I diddly doodah and all that fun stuff from 2023 and just seeing the evolution of the channel and everybody who's been coming along. So yeah, that's all there is to it. All there is to it. And yeah, GBF, like I said, I am religious. I do go to church, but I'm not going to, I'm not going to push things on people. That's just not how I am. So anyways, everybody, have a beautiful rest of your night. I'm going to go finish off my orange juice, get something to eat, hit a shower, and then hopefully get that much closer to 100% myself, just like 91L. I'm in a race. 91L is at 90% formation chances. I'm at 90% feeling better chances. So I'm going to go and try to max out those formation chances myself by getting some rest tonight. So have a great rest of your evening. Again, if you've stuck around to the end of the live stream, give that like button a little nudge. Adela, I see you in the chat. I hope I'm saying that right. Adela, I see you in the chat, and I fully agree with the comments that we shot back and forth. A little nudge needs to be on a coffee cup. I could honestly see on a mug the little nudge. Because think about it, usually you have coffee or some kind of caffeine in a mug, so it's like your little nudge. I think the little nudge would be awesome. I think we could definitely run with that. We'll see. We'll see. I have to go check in with my marketing department. But all right, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon. Expect another video from the Weather Center tomorrow afternoon, 7 p.m. Same time, same place. Your latest tropical weather update. Even though we did a live tonight, I will be making another video tomorrow. And then we'll see what the weekend has in store for us. I may try to get some additional rest, pending what the models look like between now and Saturday morning. That'll determine if I, pop out another video or we do another live discussion. But until then, have a great rest of your night. And we'll see you again soon. But you all know the phrase. Until next time, this is Weather Center Nazario, signing out.